Hello boys and girls, my name is Norma Borrett. Welcome to another Story Bridge, and I have an important question for you today. What would you like to be when you grow up? What would you like to do? Do you have plans in place for how you would like to spend your life when you're a grown-up and can do whatever you want to do? Well, most everyone has a goal and a dream. Paul, in the Bible, in the New Testament, also had a goal and a dream, and he actually achieved this goal. In the book of Philippians, chapter 1 and verse 4, we read these very special words. Paul writes, "My brothers and sisters, stay true to the Lord. I love you and long to see you, for you are my joy and the crown I receive for my work." They are his crown in glory. That means that Paul recognizes the Philippians, his brothers and sisters, as one of the greatest achievements of his life, because he calls them his joy and the crown that he receives for his work. Well, whatever we do in life, boys and girls, we will get a reward. And many people work hard for the rewards that they want as their crown in glory. For some people, that crown in glory might be money. For others, it might be recognition. Maybe one day you'd love to write a book. That would give you recognition. Maybe you're a painter. Maybe you are an athlete and you want to be the best in the world. How we spend our life is very important. And that reminds me of a story that I would like to share with you today. This is actually based on a true story. The book is called Miss Rumphius. Miss Rumphius. And this book was written by Barbara Cooney, and she also drew the pictures for this story. This is a very old story. In fact, it was first published in 1917, over 100 years ago. And the story goes like this. Now remember, boys and girls, I'm not going to read it to you word for word, because you can read this book for yourself. You can find it in your local library or perhaps at your bookstore. Now, this book is set on the eastern coast of the United States in the state of Maine, which is right on the coast. And if you go to Maine today, you will find that there are many beautiful lupins everywhere. And that has something to do with this story. When Miss Rumphius was a very little girl, she lived by the sea, and she helped her grandfather, who was a painter. Her grandfather liked to paint pictures of the sea, and he worked on boats. You can see a little picture here of the grandfather in the background. And here we have little Alice. Little Alice will later be called Miss Rumphius, as we shall see. But little Alice is looking at all of the paintings of her grandfather's. And little Alice even sometimes helps her grandfather to paint his pictures. And she has a lot of imagination. And one day little Alice says to her grandfather, "Grandfather, when I grow up, I want to travel the world." Because she's seen all these wonderful pictures and she knows that there's so much out there. And then she says, "When I'm old, I want to come back and I want to live in a house by the sea, just like you." And her grandfather says, "Well, that's wonderful, little Alice, but there's one more thing you have to do." "Well, what is that?" she asked. "Well, you must do something to make the world more beautiful," he tells her. That sounds like an easy thing to do, of course. says little Alice. And then Alice grows up and she becomes independent, and off she goes away from her home by the sea into the big city, and she begins to work, and she becomes a librarian, helping people find the books that they need and giving advice and listening to people's stories. And that's when everyone now calls her Miss Rumphius. And you can see she's helping a little boy and girl right here in the library with lots and lots of books. Now, Miss Rumphius is doing exactly what she wants. She's having an adventure. And she even visits interesting places like this conservatory. Can you see this is a conservatory? And in here there are many tropical plants from faraway places. And when Miss Rumphius goes into this conservatory in the middle of a park in her town, she's so delighted by these beautiful, fragrant plants that are growing that she decides that she needs to go to tropical countries so that she can really experience what it's like to be among these plants and experience new sights and sounds. And so off she goes across the world. So Miss Rumphius travels to a tropical island and she has many adventures there, and she goes to the desert areas of the world. Here's a picture here where she's in, it looks like she's in Egypt perhaps, and she's riding camels and experiencing the life there. And then as time goes on, Miss Rumphius grows older, and soon she feels it is time to come back to the seaside and make her home by the sea. And so Miss Rumphius now comes home. She finds a little house. There's a little house, just for her. And in this little house, there's just a little garden, and she has a handful of seeds, of lupin seeds, and she plants these seeds in the rocky soil in her front garden. And she forgets about them. And then as winter comes on and turns into spring, Miss Rumphius is not very well and she has to stay in bed. But then as she's resting in bed and the weather begins to warm up because she's in bed for quite some time, she looks out the window and to her delight, she sees that the little plants that the lupins that she had planted the previous spring are coming up, and they're in such delightful colours. It brings joy to her life. And she thinks about how sad it was that she did not have the chance to maybe plant some more. And if she had had the energy, she would have leapt out of bed and gone around and perhaps found more spots around her property, around her house, to plant lupins. But it was not to be. And then as the winter came around again and turned to spring, Miss Rumphius was feeling much better, and up she got and began to walk around outside. And she walked up over the hill, and she'd not gone over that hill for a long time. And when she looked at the other side of the hill, guess what she saw? Oh my goodness. She saw that there were lots and lots of lupins. And then she realized she had not planted them, but the wind had carried them from her garden, had carried the seeds, and the birds had carried the seeds and had spread those seeds over the hill and all in the fields down below, and they were beautiful. And then she remembered something. There was something she had to do. She had travelled the world. She was now living by the sea, but she had forgotten about the third thing that she had to do to make the world more beautiful. And now, seeing the lupins, she realized she had a plan. So Miss Rumphius hurried home, pulled out her seed catalogues, and she ordered, it says here, she ordered 5 bushels. I imagine that's a great amount. 5 bushels of lupin seeds. And with these seeds, she wandered around her state of Maine, wandered along the highways and byways and country lanes, and her pockets were overflowing with lupin seeds. And she grabbed seeds and just threw them over here, and threw them over there, and threw them over there, and threw them out there, everywhere she went. And people looked at her and thought, look at that crazy old lady, what is she doing? But she wandered over the fields and the headlands, along the highways and down country lanes, around the schoolhouse at the back of the church, along the hollows and stone walls, and she just scattered seeds. And so the next springtime came around. There were lupins blooming everywhere. Everywhere people looked, there were lupins. And so it was that Miss Rumphius, who came to be known as the crazy old lady, eventually came to be known as the Lupin Lady. And the Lupin Lady became very, very famous. And boys and girls, if ever you want to look up the Lupin Lady, her name was actually Hilda Hamlin. Hilda Hamlin. She was the Lupin Lady. And she really shows us how simple it can be, to make the world more beautiful. For the Apostle Paul, beauty was in sharing the gospel with people who then, as he said, stayed true to the Lord, and that was beautiful. He sowed seeds in people's lives. In our story, the Lupin Lady began with a little girl named Alice who had a dream and who then made a commitment. And so, boys and girls, I don't know what your big plan is, but whatever your big plan is, we should always remember that in whatever we're doing, our one goal in life is to make the world more beautiful by sharing Jesus in anything we do, because that is the crown in glory that is going to last for eternity. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the story today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time for another story bridge. Okay, take care. Bye-bye now. Bye.